And hello, everyone, and welcome back to our candidate series, where we are profiling candidates running for the Democratic nomination across Alabama and the South. And um, some nominees have been on. Today, we are interviewing Jeremy DeVito, the second candidate we've had on for the Alabama 5th Congressional District, which is my congressional district. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
All right, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I have known about Jeremy's candidacy since last May. I believe I was one of the first people to hear Jeremy speak after he declared his candidacy at a meeting we had last May. So Jeremy's been on my radar for quite some time. Jeremy, just tell us a little about your background.
Sure. I'm 41 years old. That makes me a millennial, born in 1984. From Clarksville, Tennessee, originally. That's where my dad lives still to this day. That's a military town. My dad was he was in the Army, and he ended up settling there and becoming an electrician. And my mom has worked in retail management and healthcare her entire life. So she lives in Mississippi now, but basically born and raised in the South and lived in Alabama since 2012, I want to say, when I got out of the military. So yeah, I'm a father, a husband, and a veteran. I've started a nonprofit for veterans, and in my professional career, I spent most of my time as a buyer or a procurement agent.
You talk about being from the Fort Campbell area. Were you in the 101st?
Oh no, I wasn't. My dad was, but that is what Fort Campbell is known for, is the 101st Airborne. No, I was special operations, so PSYOP is what I did. But I was airborne.
I gotta ask, what's it like jumping out of a perfectly good plane the first time?
It's scary, honestly. It's not. Everything in your body tells you that you don't want to do this, and then you just do it. That's exactly what it feels like. Everything in your body is telling you you don't want to do it, and then you do it anyway. Imagine how that would feel.
Yes. I always remember George H.W. Bush always did those parachutes later in life on his birthday. And
Yeah.
apparently, one time Mrs. Bush said if he planned to jump on his 100th birthday, he needed to do it near the church so they wouldn't have to take him far for. Uh,
Yeah, it could be dangerous.
what inspired you to run for Congress?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, Jake, because like you said, I've been doing this for over a year now, and the answer didn't change. It just got a little bit more developed because I really started thinking about what is it that really drove me to this, to do this at a time when it's the most urgent, I think, in our life. And for me, it kind of started on January 6th, 2021, when Donald Trump tried to overturn the election, and those folks did that, and then everything that's kind of happened since then. But the seed was kind of planted there, and I didn't know at the time that I was going to run for office, but I knew that I had to do more. And so every day since that day, I've been trying to do more in my community, joining the local Democratic Party, helping them advertise, helping them structurally. And then finally, when I saw the Project 2025 was actually going to happen, and he started issuing his executive orders, specifically the mass deportation, I consider that impeachable offense. And he's, disobeying the Constitution, and basically disrespecting the Constitution of which I swore an oath to protect. And so I realized I had no choice. They've left me with no choice. I had to
Um,
run as far as I could.
talking about how long you've been doing this, I just checked my calendar to last year because
Yeah.
I save events in my calendar, and it was
Mm.
May 9th when
It's almost a
you,
year ago, exactly.
yeah, when you and Greg were at the meeting in Scottsboro. Donald Trump has been back less than 100 days, and people were
Mm.
telling Democrats at this point that it's hopeless, and Democrats were in despair. But there are these two very, energetic, progressive millennial Democrats running in a very red district, talking about how they're going to make life better. And now to be here almost a full year later, uh, that was almost 365 days from the primary because it's going to be on May 19th.
That's right.
And I've always enjoyed Jeremy's speeches because Jeremy is very passionate. I think as you see as we get into some of these questions, he is very energetic and can get very fired up. Uh, what has been the most eye-opening thing about running for political office?
I had so many different wonderful experiences. But when I came to Scottsboro, that was the moment that I knew that I could do this. That was when I knew that Alabama was ready for a blue. Guys, Scottsboro, I left there. You can ask anybody that I talked to. I said, Scottsboro is alive. There's energy in Scottsboro and Jackson County. Jackson County has Democrats. Jackson County has progressives. Jackson County is ready to stand up and is looking for more. And that was eye-opening. That supercharged me. Jake, you're talking about how you like my speeches. Like I loved being there that day. It changed my perspective. It was like a lot of what I felt when I was in Limestone County Democrat. Same thing. It felt like community. It felt like home. Like just everybody together trying to push forward for something better. That's what the vibe that I got. Same at Lawrence County. So that's what's opened my eyes. The most eye-opening thing has been the level of progressivism and um, the get together, the energy just to get out the push. I knew it was there, but just seeing it felt really good.
Yes, I think people may see just the percentage and the totals from Jackson County on election day and think it's a lost cause. It's not. There are pockets of progressivism, and there are voters there that are willing to hear a candidate and their perspective. So, and also very strong military roots. I don't know
Oh
what
yeah.
the exact numbers are in Jackson County, but I could think of at least 50 veterans that I know in Jackson County. So it's a
Mhm.
very patriotic part of the country. Um, the millennial generation is the largest generation in America, and it is projected to be the largest in history in the near future. Do you believe that Congress could benefit from more millennial voices?
Absolutely. We've been through, millennials have been through it. There's a certain section of millennials who've literally seen the birth of social media. They have come up with the internet. Like I'm talking about personal experience, like from Prodigy to AOL to wherever we are now, from Facebook to, what was it before Facebook?
MySpace.
MySpace to Facebook, and then there's LiveJournal, there's all these different social media. So millennials have been navigating this, not to mention the crisis after crisis after crisis. Like we have navigated our entire adult lives through pretty bad politics and pretty bad geopolitical times. I mean, let's just be honest. So yeah, and I think millennials are perfectly poised to make some big changes because we've all decided for more better or worse, more or less, we've decided that we are ready to step up and lead this country into a better place because we've been living through all this.
We millennials have experienced a lot. We've experienced 9/11. We experienced Katrina, the Great Recession. We experienced COVID very much so. I often like to tell people before the Great Recession hit millennials, most of them right either when they were going into college or graduating. And it was devastating to their career
Into the
prospects.
military. Yeah.
It's devastating to their career prospects. And just at the moment, they are beginning to get some sense of economic normalcy and believe they are getting ahead. COVID happens and it completely wipes out the gains they've made.
Mhm.
And, you know, talking about the growth of the internet. Next year, next fall, will celebrate 30 years on the internet. I've got on the internet in September of 1997. And, you know, I, I tell, I work with a young lady who is 19, and I was telling her about like the internet when I was growing up. I said, ma'am, it took 30 minutes to download a 30-second video clip, and it was very grainy and pixelated.
Yeah, yeah,
So, you know, the technology leaps that millennials have
yeah,
seen in our lifetime are extraordinary. And one of the biggest things that I think you could benefit from more millennial voices is the boomers, who are generally the parents of millennials, don't, I think, have a firm grasp on technology and the policy
yeah.
they're making towards technology.
Yes, I was gonna make that point. I think that's, you called it, you're making jokes calling it tic-tac-toe, instead of just calling it TikTok, not understanding the, Nancy Pelosi making jokes like that on the House floor when we're really just talking about our First Amendment rights, and how, the internet and social media are communication tools. And they didn't understand that, you know, they didn't understand. They didn't care to understand. So yeah, I think there's definitely some truth to that. Everybody has their, every generation has their moment. I think this is the millennials moment. We've been trained for this. It's time to step up and use our skills.
Talking about the TikTok ban, one of the loudest voices against that was Rand Paul. And
Uh-huh.
it's not often that I find myself in agreement with Senator Paul, but one of the arguments he made against that bill was he said it's a bill of attainder, which is unconstitutional. There was no crime alleged to why we were taking this heavy-handed action. And his view of it was today it's TikTok, tomorrow it's another website. And, even in Democratic administrations, we have seen them take heavy-handed approaches to the internet, which I quite frankly think are unconstitutional. You may
Hmm.
disagree that a website with what they're posting, but they have the First Amendment right to do it. Unless
Hmm.
they're exploiting children or,
Hmm.
selling illegal contraband, I really don't see the necessity of taking something down.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
what are voters telling you is the number one issue they're facing?
Yeah, that's really tough. Because I think most of us separate our politics. We just wish that, it was a quote unquote normal time. If it was a quote unquote normal time, if you were to strip away all the unconstitutionality and all of the authoritarianism that's creeping in, I think most people would still say it's healthcare, it's prices. Prices are out of control, absolutely out of control. For our food, for our gas, for our healthcare, and you can relate all of this directly to it's like you can draw a straight line from our prices to the failed policies of the GOP, like the tariffs, the war in Iran, and the lack of action, the OBBB, the One Big Beautiful Bill. All of these things drove up prices on consumers, um, and that's what people are really struggling with right now. People who've lost health care, people who can't afford to buy food, or if they do, they have to go without on certain things, you know? For
That
what?
is
A war of choice.
right. So, Jeremy was talking about creeping authoritarianism. I am going to show um, some pictures here of headlines today from the New York Times. So this one is FCC orders review of ABC's broadcast license. And the very next slide, the Trump administration secures new indictment against Comey for a social media post that he made. And those are things that happened in the United States today. The FCC is going after the broadcast license of a company, and the story did note that, the government will probably be unsuccessful in stripping ABC's license. But here's the thing, they're going to have to fight it in court, they're going to have to spend money on it, and this is going to be a heavy burden to local news because they're going after every single ABC News affiliate. And I don't know if people know this, but local news is dying on the vine. And in mine and Jeremy's part of the world, it's storm season. And we
Mm.
rely on local news and local weather channels to give us life-saving information. And the Justice Department has brought an indictment in federal court against a man for something he posted on social media. That was very, I mean, it was provocative. I'm not going to lie. It was very provocative, but it was in no way, I think, could be construed as a threat against the president.
No,
So,
I would agree.
have you heard a lot about affordability?
Yeah. Affordability is literally the watchword of the day, and that's why I talk about, when I think there's things that we're going to stop and there's things that we're going to fix, right? We're going to stop all these horribly bad policies, the tariffs, the tax policy, the stuff that we can affect, we're gonna impact immediately. But the affordability crisis, there is so much you could do for housing, especially in this area, like the corporations that are buying up all the homes and uh, getting into bidding wars, and people don't have a chance to buy homes. So they're driving the price of houses up here in this area. So we've got a plan for that. We've got a plan to join with other progressives and take the power of the Congress back and get these tariffs out of the way, and start addressing things that immediately. Like, you're going to see a Congress that works in 2027. There's going to be a lot. It's going to be moving fast.
I have a favorite saying of mine, make Congress great again.
It's gonna be, I mean, you're gonna see a window if you put people like me in there, like, which I think folks are across this country, people who are just eager to just push past all the naysayers and build coalitions and really make big, bold changes. That's what people are looking for. That's what's gonna happen.
I have one of my hobby horses is Congress and the operations of Congress in generally. And I've said there's two things that if I could wave a magic wand with Congress, I'm not going to be able to change the partisan makeup of Congress, but I'm going to be able to make it better. The one thing is I'm going to increase their salary. I believe Congress is underpaid. They've not received a pay raise since 2009. And that is one reason you see so many talented legislators leave Congress is they can
True.
receive better pay in the private sector. And also, it is a significant financial burden for them to maintain two residences. And
Mhm.
some of them are traveling from California to Washington, D.C. I mean, every week, that has got
Logistically, it
to
is
be draining
yeah. Oh yeah,
physically.
for
Second,
sure.
I would increase the staff in Congress because
Yeah.
staff makes the Congress work. And I would significantly expand the office of legislative counsel, which is the body in Congress that actually writes the bills for members. The members go to them, they say, hey, this is my ideal for a bill. The Office of Legislative Counsel looks into it because no one Congress member can know every single law and policy. And Office of Legislative Counsel, one sees if it's not already a law or policy,
Yeah.
or sees how you make it work, and then
Yeah.
writes up the proposed bill for the member, and they go through and edit it and make it presentable. Um, so I think those are two things just in the would make Congress immensely better, um, very quickly. What is an issue that is not currently getting enough attention that will become a major problem in the years to come? And what is your solution to fix it?
In this race right now, the issue that I don't think we get asked enough about, or that we talk enough about, is AI data centers. There's so much going on right now in the world that it's hard to focus on things. But Alabama, to me, it looks like is is getting ready to sell a lot of its land to AI data centers. I see articles about it all the time. And the problem with it is we've already got really high utility rates. It's going to continue to increase utility rates. So, and also they're not job creators, they're job killers. So you're getting an AI data center, you're getting your utility rates are going up, but you're not getting anything in return. So I think that, Congress in general should be looking to lead the way on this because there are too many towns and too many small towns that are, you can even use this example in Alabama. This is not unique to just, one city or one state, but small towns that are in need of revenue, they see a nice lucrative AI data center, whatever kind of data center coming, offer them several million dollars to, keep their town running, and why wouldn't they? But what happens in the end is it ends up hurting the people that live there, and those things are short-lived. So yeah, I would say AI data centers and maybe a moratorium. I would support a moratorium and taking the lead from a top-down approach on what safe AI data centering and what that environmental impact looks like.
Um, we have here in Jackson County, we have a data center for Google, and I believe that over in Madison County, Facebook
Hmm.
has a data center, and I'm not sure. I'm sure there's
Hmm.
more in
Hmm.
Madison County, but I'm
Hmm.
also positive that probably Limestone even has some
They're
at this
everywhere.
point. And
They're
like you
everywhere.
said, Alabama is really rolling out the welcome mat, and that is one issue that I will tell you that it's one of those issues on the outside bubble. Like if you follow politics regularly, this is a topic that is being talked about widely.
Yeah. Hmm.
But it is one of those issues that I think is out there on the outside of the bubble
Hmm.
that as we get into this general election campaign, that more people are going to begin to talk about because
Yeah.
you were talking about the utility rates. And also, the amount of water these places use is
Hmm.
insane.
Yep.
Um, so we're going to talk now about what happens if Jeremy becomes Representative DeVito. Uh,
Nice.
what committees would you want to serve on in the 120th Congress?
For me, I was looking at so some of these are interesting, right? Like the Judiciary Committee obviously would be great. I don't think I have a chance at that. That's for the more senior members of Congress, but maybe a subcommittee or something. Any sort of oversight committee that I could get onto, I would enjoy that. I would enjoy that very much. Specifically, I would like to be on the Veteran Committee for Veterans Affairs. I think I would have a lot to offer, especially for the Fifth District. Being on the Committee of Veterans Affairs, I've looked at anything to do with housing policy. So I know there's a couple of different ones. I want to say it's like the financial. I can't name them all, but those are the two that stuck out in my head that I've looked at personally. But Veterans Affairs and any of the housing ones would be perfect for me.
What about committees dealing with NASA and,
Oh
science?
yeah, there's a space and science technology, which is what Dale Strong is on one of those now, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
that's
I-
always one of those committees that most members of Congress, the Science and Technology Committee look at as like, oh, a punishment, but it is always the Fifth District of Alabama has a member on there because NASA is such a huge, important economic
yes.
driver in this district. And is really the reason Huntsville, Alabama went from a moderately sleepy crossroads in North Alabama to the largest city in the state of Alabama currently. With
Yeah, I think I think a NASA. So if I understand correctly, you get two or three committee assignments. Usually it's one full committee and like two or three subcommittees that you get to be on. I would love to be on a NASA subcommittee or on the committee itself. I think any of those, that's where you're doing your work. The way that I look at it is like in the Army, you would get assigned, you want to be a pilot, you don't get to pick your airframe. You just go through the pilot's course and then whatever they need, you go needs of the Army. I would happily serve on any committee because that's where you're doing most of your work. I'll find a way to make it work for the fifth district.
Um, so there are three candidates running for the Democratic nomination, and voters are going to have to make a decision on May the 19th of who they want. There is Jeremy, there is Candace, who I've interviewed before, and there's Andrew Sneed, who is also running. What, why should voters choose you? Why should they make you the nominee?
Yeah, so I kind of knew when I started this race that there was going to be at least one other person. So the whole premise of my candidacy has been why me, why you should choose me, because that is ultimately the question that we're trying to answer. And for me, if you look at how I've messaged, how I speak, and how I discuss politics, I try to be very bold, transparent, and direct. I'm not being that way because I'm a firebrand Bill O'Reilly. I'm doing it because I need the folks in the fifth district who don't know me to be willing to trust me at a time that I think is the most dangerous, most urgent time that we've had in our Congress. So when you're weighing your choices, me and the other two, I tried to position myself to be very transparent, very forthcoming, very approachable, because I think that's what we need. And it's going to take a long time to build trust. And I think that's what we need. If we're going to put a Democrat in office, somebody that you can trust, but somebody who's not afraid to call a thing and go for it. And put myself between you and the federal government right now, which I think we could all use a little space.
I That's one thing I've always asked candidates because at the end of the day, that is the ultimate question. Why them? Um, I ran for a state on the state Democratic Executive Committee and I won without opposition. No one ran against me. But and that's just a minor post in a sense. That's a partisan post,
Mm,
purely partisan post. But I've always kind of looked up to people who run for public office in a
mm.
sense, because that's a very bold proposition to say, I'm the one to fix
Yeah.
this. Like the people that run for president, that takes a lot of one, just incredible courage, but two, a little
Yeah.
bit of ego to say,
Oh
out of
yeah.
all of the people in the country, I'm the one that
Yeah.
should be making the decisions. So,
Yeah. That's why I tell people I'm not interested in being president. I like being a member of a large body of legislators. The idea of being involved in the largest body of the House makes a lot of that's exciting to me. Being president, no. Like you say, narcissism, you have to be egotistical, you have to have a little bit of yeah, me, and that's just
and
beyond my desires.
you also have to have a lot of grit
Yeah.
because running for Congress is an incredibly can be a nasty affair. But
Yeah.
running for president, you're going to hear from people you went to elementary school with and you thought you didn't know existed, but you wronged them in some way.
I
Or
yeah, I keep wondering if that's ever gonna happen to me because I do feel like there might be somebody out there. But no, and so far, I've been running for over a year. I've been very open and transparent, and nobody's come up. And I always feel like, if I wronged someone, they would say it.
what is an inspiring story from the trail so far?
Yeah. So when I started running, I didn't, I didn't know what the response was going to be like. I didn't know who was going to be behind me. Um, but I talked to Chris. Chris Love is the chair of the Limestone County Democrats, and I called him up the day that I decided that I was going to do it, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to run for Congress." And he goes, "Oh," he said, "Oh shit," is actually what he said. And I said, "Yep." And the next meeting that we had at Limestone County was where this moment came in. I gave a speech that was kind of like, hey, my announcement. And what was really interesting, what was inspiring about it is I didn't know, I just thought, hey, I'm going to give a speech and, people will cheer and then we'll kind of figure out what's next. But after I gave my speech, people in the audience were standing up and were like, I'll pledge this much $1,000. I'll pledge this much $1,000. And that was when I realized like, okay, uh, I can do this. And ever since that day, I've been inspired by every different group of people that I go to meet with, whether it be Jackson County Democrats, Limestone County Democrats, Morgan County. I'm going to be in Priceville this week to a bipartisan event center thing. Every time I go out and talk to somebody, I find a little bit more inspiration uh, about what we can do together and what's going on in this country. Everybody seems to know what's going on. We just need some people that are willing to connect from the national level to the local, and that's what I hope to do.
And I must tell people, when Jeremy started this race, there were a candidates running. There was a
That's true.
lot of
We
candidates
had
running.
five. I forgot. Yeah, we had five. Two people dropped out, didn't they?
Yes,
Well,
Greg dropped out. Yes,
Amanda went over and Greg dropped out. He's doing a pack.
yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that that is true. And I will also say this. Um, Jeremy and Candace and Andrew, and I do not know if Craig was still in the race when this occurred, but there was an interesting moment where Dale Strong held a town hall. Now I'm putting quotes around town hall because
That
that's
call in.
yes.
Yeah.
And they ran him out the building. Like he ran out the back of the building. He was so scared of these liberals in North Alabama. I mean, he tells us that there's none of us in North Alabama, but he was so
Yeah.
scared he ran out the back door.
Have you seen that picture of me and my cohorts that the Washington Post ran a front page article on us? Well, we went and found Dale Strong and we went to one of his events and we stood at one of these private events with the flag upside down right in front of him because he couldn't find him. This was like March of last year, February or March of last year. You couldn't find him. And then we did a town hall in Athens. Uh, I was actually I helped organize that and we had over 300 people show up march in Athens in a non-election year. Dale Strong is probably the most unpopular politician in North Alabama right now. And people always make the same face when you say Dale Strong. They're like they just tasted something. Like, hey, do you know Dale Strong? Yeah, and they just kind of they make that face.
Um, so where can voters get more information about the campaign, Jeremy?
Yeah, so if you go to jeremytakesthehouse.org, that's Jeremy takes, that's TAKES, thehouse.org. You can find out more about me. And that's my social media is at Jeremy Takes the House.
And I know political candidates hate doing this part, but I have no problem doing it for them. If you feel inclined and like what you see on Jeremy's website, please go to that donate button and give
Mm,
Jeremy a donation because his
that's right.
campaign is not being funded by billionaires and corporate PACs like the Republican in this race. Mr. Strong is. Jeremy's relying on grassroots donations and give him a dollar or two. Um, that they can go a long way. Donations to campaigns puts gas in the tank. It gets material printed and also helps staff. It allows them to get resources to reach voters. So every little bit helps. And this 5th congressional seat has a strong and vibrant history. There were congressmen like Jones, there were congressmen like Flippo and Kramer, and for a few years, Griffith, asterisk beside that one. But since Mo Brooks and Dale Strong, this district has not had adequate representation. And we have a tremendous chance to change that this November. So please, if you live in the 5th Congressional District, consider Andrew, consider Jeremy, and consider Candace. They are all over the district. They are all over social media and very approachable. So please weigh your choices in this election. And if you're watching from somewhere else in the country, please take a look at all these candidates running. I think personally, I'm a little biased. I'll admit, uh, when Jeremy first came and spoke, after the meeting, I was speaking with him and Mr. Greg Howard, who was running at the time, and I told them, I said, this is a tough district. I said, but of all the districts in Alabama that the Republicans currently hold, this is the most winnable. And at the time, I thought maybe. But I am increasingly convinced that this is going to be the upset on election night. There are going to be reporters like in 2016 when reporters knocked each other over to get to diners in Pennsylvania to figure out how what happened happened. Political journalists across the country are going to be booking flights to Huntsville International and spanning out across the 5th congressional district. I hope some of them end up at the Painted Rock Zoo in Jackson County, Alabama. And they're asking voters how, in a district that Donald Trump won with like 63% of the vote and was an R plus 15, did they send a Democrat to Congress? And they will find out why, because of our people.
Yeah,
That is our greatest resource. Jeremy, thank you for coming on this afternoon.
of
Uh,
course. It's wonderful.
I was a little concerned, I must say. I was looking at the weather this morning and I thought I might have to move this up, but the storms have not
It helps.
appeared.
It
Uh,
helps.
s- so thank you.
Of
And we will
course.
be back on again soon. I have reached out to a couple other candidates, and hopefully they will be on in the near future. So until then,
Wonderful. All
good
right. I'll
evening.
see you soon.